Hey everybody, Chris Phoenix here. I just wanted to reach out to everybody. So, in traditional BGFG fashion, the audio broke after the first half. I'm not really sure what happened. I think we fixed it by now, but we only had the first half of the show. So, I'm going to go ahead and release the first half of the show. I want to release the notes for the entire show. And just know that at the end of the first half, what you hear is Fremo Z downing a jar of moonshine. Whereas it didn't record the fact that he told me right afterwards that I have about 30 minutes before he's incapable of doing any of the other show. So here's at least the first half of the show, and we'll see you this week for the next episode of BGFG. Thanks for listening.
FG.
Gonads are useful for their purpose, but they are no substitute for brains.
All right, here we go.
I have to say, well done, Ray. Well done. Well played, my adversary. Well played.
Phoenix isn't gay, but if he was, he'd pick Fremo.
Oh yeah, he'd be living down there with you in the bunker, man. Woo!
Once you go free, you always do the Z.
Like one day of not going to Duncan, and you could get a controller, a new Xbox, possibly even a cord.
And now your hosts back from Dunkin' Donuts.
Welcome to BGFG episode 424. I'm your host, Chris Phoenix, and joining me, as always, my brother from another mother, Mr. Fremo Z. How are you doing this week?
Me, I'm fantastic, man.
You're fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. No complaints about anything.
That's good. That's awesome. That's great to hear.
Did I say that right?
Yeah, you got to check with her. Yep, that's the yeah. It's just holiday season, and well, staring down the barrel of the holiday season. My relatives are doing a early Thanksgiving on Sunday.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know where it came from or why, but they like sent out a global text to like every family member at all. They're like, "Come on by, it's gonna be great." I'm like, "Great, that's
It's
what
like-
I want to."
It's 2 weeks away, isn't it?
Yeah. I know. I don't get it, but it's one of those things I
Okay.
got to go do. So it is what it is.
Well, I guess it's a good thing we're doing this today then.
Yes, sir. And then Sunday I'm going to eat like a fat man because I'm already a fat man. All right, let's get to this week's news. I mean, might as well.
BGFG News. You heard it here third.
So first up in this week's news, we're talking about WeWork. Now, for those that don't know, WeWork is a flexible office space. Literally, it's a bunch of cubicles, offices with a common area.
Okay.
What?
I thought it was slave labor.
No, it's not slave labor.
We, it's like,
Uh,
I got to get this shit banged out. Let me get some of these we workers.
Kind of. It's you can rent the space. You could be a freelancer. You could be a remote worker. I don't. So the way I see it is that it's a lot of entrepreneurs can utilize it. I also see that it's a situation where, if you're maybe IT, and you're remote, you could go there instead of your home. But you could be networking with people as well when you're there. So if you're an entrepreneur, it's beneficial. There's a lot of common areas in there.
Or if you're running a phone scam, and you need some call center space.
That's true. The India WeWork is not in jeopardy at all. But the one in the United States it was huge a few years ago. They got back.
Yeah, I gotta think COVID probably helped them out, made them look really good.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
then now that everybody is back in the office,
Well, I mean, COVID helped them so much that they got investments from SoftBank and Goldman Sachs. So they were even valued at $47 billion at one point. Unfortunately, now they're
Not
claiming
so
bankruptcy. Now
Yeah.
they're claiming bankruptcy. Bottom dropped out when people created home offices again right after the pandemic, and got told they needed to go back to the office, which is a whole nother issue, which I don't completely understand. I get that you can work from home. I get that you can do that sometimes, but there's also a point where you need to go into the office at some point. I mean, you and I are both IT people, and we know that there's a lot of stuff that we can do remotely. I know
Oh
a
yeah.
couple of engineers that have 3 or 4 Cisco certifications. You know, they're making bank, but they also can remote into pretty much anywhere at any time. So, but they still come to the offices to check things out, to look at things, and maybe get some hands on. Uh, it's only going to be the bankruptcy is only going to affect U.S. and Canada because their India holdings are doing just fine. Go figure. You can tell by all the shitty customer service over the phone. That's how that's happening, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But we work with something. There's a couple of Netflix. I think there's one Netflix documentary, maybe one on Hulu, about WeWork itself and the CEO of WeWork. It's a pretty interesting story. He's very eccentric, the guy that created it. I don't want to do a lot about it because we could go on a tangent about it because there's a lot of questionable actions. There's questionable management. But I wanted to bring that up first because it's a amusing story when you see something that's touted as 47, $1 million, and then it just the bottom drops right out of it.
Yeah.
But as we talk about medical stuff, interesting piece out of the UK. BBC News announces that there's a drug to prevent breast cancer, which I find extremely good because I'm all about saving second base, all about it. I'm going to butcher the name, but it's anastrozole. I'm guessing is the name of the medication. Recent trials show that the drug.
Anastrozole.
Sure, that too. Recent trial. See, this is why I'm never good at like the pharmacy. Like they have no idea what the fuck I'm ordering. Recent trials showed that
A
the drug.
cannoli? What, sir?
You don't have cannolis here.
2 doors down.
Recent trials showed that the drug can reduce the incidence of breast cancer by almost 50% in postmenopausal women. That's a big deal. That is a huge deal. That's awesome. It's a huge leap for women with a history of cancer in their family. So if they have cancer in the family, this is definitely something you want to get on when you get to that menopausal stage.
Yeah. And I'm gonna do some research and see what this drug's based off of.
Why do you say that?
Because there's got to be a natural derivative that they, something that they made this off of.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you usually find them, no doubt. The drug is off patent, which is also good too. So because it's off patent, any more than one company can make it. There are side effects, which again, I hate to say this, but when the wife and I are watching TV and we see these we see these commercials for drugs, for different drugs for like skin conditions, and like the side effects are like you might have anal bleeding,
You may cough up a lung.
yeah, it's like I don't know. I think I'm going to take this little skin issue and run with it. The side effects for this though are a lot of the side effects you see after menopause anyway: hot flashes, feeling weak, pain or stiffness in
Nausea.
the joints, arthritis, skin rash, nausea, headaches, osteoporosis, depression. These are a lot of the same things in menopause anyway. So having a medicine on board that either you have light menopausal symptoms and they're a little bit more, or you don't have any menopausal or you already have them and this is just, another side effect. The fact that it can prevent breast cancer is a gigantic deal, in my opinion. Right now, it's only in the UK, and it'll be in this country sooner rather than later. And here's another story that I found this week that really hit home to me, which was apparently homeschooling's on the rise. Big surprise there, huh?
Yeah. There's no way in the world I'm sending my grandkids to public school.
No.
In fact, I'm not even going to be sending them to private schools because a lot of the private schools are teaching a lot of the same crap too. It's ridiculous.
So, which is interesting because I want to see where you sit on a certain topic. But homeschooling is on the rise, and it's not just because of the pandemic. It was on the rise prior, but the pandemic definitely jump-started it 100%.
Oh yeah, because that's when the people found out what was going on in public schools and the crap that they're teaching.
Oh yeah, it's increased by over 50% since 2018. According to
Yeah.
the Washington Post, it's actually 100% in some states. Not really sure which ones. I didn't dive into that too much because it was a lot of numbers. Many of the schools that took the longest to reopen have the highest numbers. So, like New York, Chicago, those took longer to come back from the pandemic, and people were just like, you know what, I'm going to continue to homeschool my kid. I have 5 kids, and 2 of them graduated. That's it. The rest of them either graduated silently, one's getting his GED, and the other 2 graduated silently, meaning that they just finished it up in summer school or whatever, and got their diploma. In fact, my daughter, I believe my daughter never got her
I did that.
actual. One of my daughters never got her actual diploma, and is still a little bit pissed off about it, and they don't want to hear it, and she doesn't want to go back to that school because it's just absolutely shitty. In 2019, homeschool students were 3/4 white in 2019. By the summer of 2023, less than half were white. And it's most likely due to the critical race theory. Now, I don't know where you
That's part of
stand.
it.
Yeah.
That's
Now,
part of it, and now the whole gender ideology stuff that they're pushing in schools as early as kindergarten.
and again, I know this is, I know what's going to happen here. I predict it. I know it. We're going to get,
that's going to give me some hate
we're
mail.
going to get hate mail on this. And feel free to do it at bgfgonline@gmail. Just go ahead and send it. Links in the show notes. So, my opinion, and I'll get your take on it first. The gender specific thing shouldn't be taught. I think it should be talked about, kind of like sex ed. It
Yeah,
should be
at an appropriate time.
correct, not in middle school or elementary. That's not the time. In my opinion, it's not the time. It's not because I'm an
I
old
mean,
bastard.
you could give I would say maybe 8th grade, 7th, 8th grade, you could start introducing the ideas, and then high school you can flesh it out a little bit more. But kindergarten, no.
No, not at all. I don't
Elementary
agree.
school, no.
As for that's the
These
first thing
kids are
that's
still
gonna
trying to
be
figure out how to do monkey bars.
right, and not pull the girl's hair. There's 100 different reasons why, and I know several transgender people that we've had conversations, and it was nice because you could have that conversation with civil people.
Yeah.
And they feel, one of them felt that they're teaching their kids at a very, very young age. And they accepted the fact that I might disagree with that, but that's their household. And I agree with that. That's your household.
Right. Household.
Correct.
Not a school.
Right. Where
That's
you might
supposed
have
to be teaching education, not ideology.
And before people start sending us
You can
emails,
teach your kid anything you want in your own house. I don't care.
right? And I'm not disparaging you from being transgender or anything, or gay, lesbian. I don't care.
Yeah.
We've said that on the show before. Gen X really doesn't care. If you're oppressed, we will help you. If you're not oppressed and you're happy, great, good on you. It's not going to affect me at all. Teaching
But
it
quit trying to oppress everybody else with your thought process.
right. Do you stay in your lane? Do you? We stay in our lane and do us. I don't. And I know it's going to get us some hate mail, but I just don't feel that it should be taught in that younger age group. They don't know anything from anything yet. They're more concerned with getting home and watching a cartoon or two and playing a video game. That's all they care about, or playing with their siblings. As for the critical race theory, I think the critical race theory on an extreme is wrong. I think critical race theory should be taught in schools. We should let our youth know what actually happened. I would dare say that when it comes to, like, dare I say Thanksgiving, because we're right around the corner
I
from
got
it.
absolutely no problem with teaching history correctly.
Right.
I think it needs to be done that way.
Okay.
But I'm not going to get on board with the fact that I'm evil just because some ancestors back in the day did something.
Right. I agree. You can't blame an entire society on one or two. Like, I don't make fun of German people.
Here's a statistic that most people don't realize, and they get all up in arms. If you seriously are so concerned with slavery, quit worrying about the slavery that happened in this country a couple hundred years ago, and do something about the slavery that's happening right now in the world,
Amen.
all over the world.
Yes, all over. And it's
Still
not just
exist.
right. And do your before you start sending us emails, do your research. It's not just slavery like you saw on TV. It's not just that. There's other forms of slavery. There's sex trafficking slavery. There's slavery work conditions. There's a lot of different slavery.
There's forced labor slavery that happens on multiple continents.
Right.
Some of it's different races enslaving another. Some of it's different ethnicities. Some of it's based around religious ideology. But slavery exists in the world today. Doesn't exist in America anymore, and hasn't for a long time.
I mean, it does. You can't say that. It does exist. Slavery in different ways is still in this country.
No.
You don't think so?
Unless you're wanting
you
to
know what?
redefine
You know what?
the word slave.
You're right. Okay, I take that back. I retract that. Not necessarily slavery, just ignorance and racism.
Oh yeah, there's racist people. There always will be racist people because humans are garbage.
So back to the story. The argument from the school officials say that parents don't have an understanding of education. Okay, first of all, my kids.
And neither do you. Neither do y'all, because I've seen what y'all have been trying to teach.
So let me say first and foremost, 5 kids spanning from 28 years old to 16 years old. Do not sit there and tell me that you did a shitty job of teaching 10 base math to my children. 4 of them out of the 5. You did a shitty job of explaining it. Then they come home.
They don't even know what 10 base math is. I doubt that they even touch that anymore unless you're taking a college level prep class.
Oh my God, around here, that's all it was. I'd have my daughter, my oldest daughter, would cry while doing her math homework because she didn't understand it. And this is when I was homeschooling, which we'll get into in a minute, homeschooling one of my kids. And I had a whiteboard on the wall. And I actually did regular division and regular multiplication. And my daughter lit up and she's like, "That's it?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's absolutely it."
Yeah.
She's like, "I could do that all day." I'm like, "Exactly. You don't have to take 5 hours to do it." And she failed a math exam like the following day or the day after and was mad at me, of course, because, kids, parents, she was mad at me because she failed it because I didn't teach her the right way. Her teacher said that I didn't teach the right way.
Was the answer correct?
Correct.
Then that's all that matters.
And that's what she argued. And I got called into the office. One of many times I got called into the school for things.
Yeah.
Oh, for instance, I got called in because
I was on a first name basis with the entire administrative staff at all my kids' schools because of differences of opinions.
Yes. To do it in a nutshell, and I think people will enjoy this. The first 3 children, I stopped doing it because I just didn't want to go to the school anymore, or they were tired of it, one or the other. The first 3 kids, they would do something like name a famous explorer, and I would tell them, like on their paper homework, I would tell them put Dora. I got called for that one, and then 2 out of the 3 that I got called for the most was when they started talking about Egypt. Because after the first 2 girls got done, my sons didn't want to hear it. They're like, "I'm not listening to Dad. I know where this is going to go." Or the daughters, for all I know, could have told them, like, "Don't ask Dad about helping you with Egypt. We know he loves the ancient Egypt stuff, but don't ask him about it." Because they would go back to school and challenge the teacher and say, "So they used rolling pins, trees, to roll it up the hill, the big blocks for the pyramids, right?" That's what the teacher would teach them. My kids would go back to school and go, "Excuse me, teacher, where did they get the trees in the middle of the desert?"
Well, see, the problem is the topography changed.
It didn't change
It
that
wasn't
much.
always desert.
Yeah, but it didn't change that much. No matter how you look at it,
Yeah.
a
No,
one
but
one to
more
10
than
times.
likely they got their they more than likely use cedar logs because cedar's very dense hardwood, and
Oh,
they got it from
bull-
Lebanon.
oh.
You've heard of the cedars of Lebanon, right?
Look, all I'm saying is that this is for a Subtopia Null show, and we'll go off on this because a 1 ton to 10 ton stone being pulled on wood does not last very long. All right, so back to the story.
You're not giving cedar enough
Oh,
credit, man.
please. So the school official said that we don't understand education, but you have to understand that you're not guaranteed an education for public schools. Like, people miss that point. You're not guaranteed that education. This is a public school funded by your tax dollars. So when you go to these schools, it's by teachers that are severely underpaid and overworked. I've worked in multiple
agree with
school
that.
departments. I've seen it happen firsthand. I watched a superintendent have kids that were doing very well in school bust to another school that would succeed. I've seen schools by the same superintendent that had problem children that would all funnel them to 1 or 2 schools. That way it would fail and get federal funding at that point. It's a really shitty situation to put our children in. There's no real accountability either for the education that's given. There really isn't. You hope for the best. Some schools across the country are actually testing that not even a single student had grade level math skills. That's a problem, man.
Yeah.
When I have to explain to even the kids that I work with on how to make change in their drawers, or that it takes them too long. The most recent poll I found, as of 2023, only 6% of kids in the U.S. are homeschooled, and I think that's going to rise even more now. So the argument for the homeschooling. Now, I homeschooled my autistic stepson. I call him my kid, but he's my stepson. We homeschooled him, and I was at the time able to homeschool him. He didn't know how to tell time on a clock. He couldn't do basic math because they just pushed it through. Especially with special needs kids, you get $40,000 a year. The school department does per special needs kids for their funding. Yet they're so severely understaffed, the school department just takes that money and disperses it. Yet your child is in a class with 5 other special needs kids, regardless of the severity, and you have 1 teacher and 1 aide, and that's all you have.
My one son, I went to get him registered for his next year, and we show up, and they had promoted him and moved him to the next grade. And I'm like, no, he's repeating this
Yeah.
grade. Well, no, we've already promoted him. Well, then whatever paperwork has to be signed and filled
Right.
out, let's get it done.
'Cause
Because
I'm not
school
having it.
starts next week, because
Yeah.
I was up there on the first day of registration. I was like, school starts next week. Let's get this done because he's repeating this grade. Well, I just don't think. I said, no, I don't care what you think. Pull his grades up and look at it and
Yeah.
tell me how in the world he got promoted.
Exactly. And it happens everywhere.
He's smarter than what his grades reflect.
Oh,
Absolutely, he is.
oh.
Absolutely, he is. But he also has to learn work ethic. So he's repeating this grade. Period. End of discussion.
So that happens
get
in the
started.
north. That happens in the north and the south. And I can tell you that up north, they do the exact same thing until they get to their junior or senior year in high school. And then all of a sudden they don't have enough credits. They haven't passed this test. They're in jeopardy of
Yeah.
graduation. It's a bunch of bullshit. So here's the list of the concerns that most people have for turning to homeschooling. The biggest concern is safe environment at 25%. Shitty education's at 14%. Religion comes into 13%. Moral instruction at 6%. Health at 3%. Special needs at 7%. Non-traditional education, which I really don't know what that is, at 7%. Emphasis on family at 8%. Other reasons at 14%. But then 60% think that they will lose social skills if they go to homeschooling. 29% say they can't homeschool because of work. So it's both parents or a single parent working that can't stay home and help.
Yeah.
Homeschool students get higher SAT scores and higher GPAs. Now, those are the facts. Now, here's my take, and I'm sure Freemo's going to chime in. The safe environment thing is so huge right now, it's not even friggin' funny.
Yeah.
We have a problem up here where people were getting beat up in bathrooms. One kid at a school a couple towns over got stabbed. Somebody allowed another person into the school. They went into the bathroom, found the kid, and stabbed him literally from his chest all the way down to his stomach. Just sliced him and then stabbed him in the leg and the arm, I believe. And then you have special needs students that are getting caught up in the bathroom, wherever it is, and getting kind of forced to smoke pot, which is not something they're used to, especially when you're special needs. God only knows how it's going to affect the medication as well. But they're getting kind of forced or peer pressured into doing that. And then they're laid on the ground because they're stoned out of their gourd and they don't know what to do. And people are taking pictures and posting on Instagram and shit. So the bullying has not stopped even a little at all.
No, it's gotten worse.
It's
It's
insane.
gotten worse.
No one
Cancel
is
culture has turned bullying into an art form.
right. Now the shitty education at 14%, absolutely. You guys are teaching, at least up here in the Northeast, they're teaching kids to pass tests. They're not giving them an education. They're teaching them how to pass the test that's forthcoming, whether it's
Yeah.
a state-run test or a federal test. Religion comes in. Good.
The problem is they have taken logic, problem solving, critical thinking out of education.
Yep.
Okay. Rote memorization serves its purpose in early years.
Right.
Learning your ABCs, learning addition,
Right.
Multiplication tables, learning, who the founding fathers were, memorizing. That's where it starts. And then when you and I came up, they start transitioning you into critical thinking, right? They give you word problems and you have to, train leaves here at this time, car leaves here at that time. At what point will they pass each other, all that kind of stuff. But they've taken that away.
Completely.
So they don't teach people how to think anymore. They just make them memorize information, like you were saying, to pass a test. And that's why you end up with someone sitting there and you're checking out and wife's got your debit card, so you pull cash out and then you have to tell them what the change is and how to count it out.
Yeah, it's pretty pathetic.
That'll be a 5, 2 1s, a quarter, and 3 pennies.
Yeah.
Yeah, the brown ones, the pennies. Yeah.
Yeah. Religion comes in at 13%, and this one I can go either way on because saluting the flag, I think, is something we should bring back. But at the same time, the argument can be had about God in schools. If you're going to do one, if you're going to do
That's a bogus. That's a fallacious argument.
Why you say that?
Separation of church and state that everybody argues about and what it means.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you can't have God in school. It doesn't mean any of that. It simply means that the government cannot mandate a religion.
Correct. So I think you should have, in my opinion, separate them in the morning. If you want them to have a prayer before the morning, separate them by religion. And you want to say, oh, that's separation. No, it's not. It makes sense. I'm not going to walk into a mosque because that's not my religion. I don't expect somebody that's Hindi to walk into my Catholic church. I mean, on special occasions, yes, we all, coexist. But that's not something you do. So the religion thing, I can see the point in that. The moral instruction at 6%, look, the morals in a school is just gone. All they do is they take it and they ship it off to another department, or they suspend the child and then call it a day.
Well, and that happened when you took corporal punishment out. There's no fear.
Yes, but I don't know if corporal punishment would be a good idea. And I say that, no, wait. I say that
you and I growing up, you knew you didn't want to get in trouble and get it at school because you're going to get it again at home.
Correct. I agree with that with home.
So you figured out how to fucking sit your ass still in class and not cause a disruption.
Yep.
I know plenty of people our age that would be, if they were kids today, would already be on 2 or 3 medications.
Yes.
right?
Special needs is
But
7%.
we had to figure out how to behave.
Special needs is 7%. I agree with the special needs is 7%. If you have a special needs child, it's friggin' god awful in the public school department. It is absolutely the
Yeah.
worst. And the specialty schools that my wife and I have visited for our special needs child is so astronomically expensive. Worth it, worth every penny, but just out of the realm of me being able to afford it. Me and her, actually.
Yeah.
Non-traditional education, I don't know about. Emphasis on family, 8%. Yes, again, this goes back to what Fremont and I were saying. You don't need to teach in elementary and most of middle school. But after that, yes, teach about families and how each family has a different structure. I'm all about explaining to a child, look, Billy's mom has a wife. You know what I mean? Brad's father, Brad has two fathers. Like, I don't have a problem with that. I really don't. But teaching it to or forcing it upon transgender and those type of things on an elementary school kid, they don't even understand what the fuck's going on with
Yeah.
anything in life. So throwing this at them is probably not the greatest idea in the world. And the social skills thing about not being homeschooled, the social skill thing is bullshit. There is such a gigantic homeschooling community, gigantic, where they set up play dates, they have days at parks.
They have homeschooling sports,
Correct. Yep.
the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. So don't give me that bullshit that you can't do it. As for the 29% is that they have to
I'll
work.
tell you right now, everybody's met one at some point, the homeschool kid who's awkward as all get out. Guess what? That kid was going to be awkward as all get out if he went to school.
Yeah, it's really
That's the
not a
kid that
big-
gets picked
yeah,
on all the time at school.
correct. And then you're in school all the time.
Okay.
But to sit there and say that you can't homeschool because you have to work, I get that too. And that's a whole different issue with society. And
But here's the
fact,
thing. Here's the thing. There's also homeschool organizations where you're buying, you pay a fee and your kids may be homeschooled with other homeschoolers. You don't necessarily have to be the one teaching them.
right. And that's an option. That's
And
an
it's
option.
very, very reasonable.
And you can also hire substitute teachers that are currently working to do your homeschooling and help out and assist with that. So there's definitely ways around it. But the fact that you have to work is a societal it's a society issue. Yeah. It's an issue there because unfortunately, the way society is right now, both parents have to work, or that single mother or single father has to work twice as much to make ends meet. And that's the problem with our society, which is a whole nother issue. But the fact that the homeschooling thing really got me fucking pissed off because I've sat there and my wife is a fucking phenomenal advocate for special needs. So much so that other parents in the area would reach out to her and get her to help advocate for their children, whether it's a 504 or an IEP, to help with those things because the school department doesn't care. Like I said, from working inside the school department, it's a fact. The schools around here were getting 40 grand per special needs child, and they weren't getting what the education that they needed. They would get their 504 and their IEP, but they had one teacher with one special aid, and that was it for a group of 5 or 6 students. Well, what happens if you have a severely autistic student that's barely verbal, that lashes out a lot? Guess what? You can't do shit for them because your teacher is occupied with everybody else, or your child suffers because they're completely occupied with their time with that severe child. This is where that money comes in, and all it is absorbed into the school department and divvied up between, basketball, baseball, and football.
Yeah.
It's a damn shame. Our education system sucks right now. If you have an option and you have a young kid or you have a grandchild, try to convince your children into homeschooling. Help them out. If I retired and my daughter or either one of my daughters, because they're old enough, wanted to have a child and wanted me to homeschool them, I'm all about that. I still have all the literature, the websites. I can turn people on. If you send us an email, I will turn you on to some of the things like Lexia. That's a phenomenal program for reading comprehension. Unbelievably good. that the schools just turn around and go, you know what? We need to buy a bunch of gear for the football team, so we can't afford Lexia for these kids. Really? Because your entire school is rated in the lower 20% of reading comprehension. You might want to help out with that and do something.
Yeah.
I mean, back when we were kids, Gen Xers were kids, we had those stupid little boxes with storybooks that you pulled out, the little, like, three, I don't know if you had them. They were like little 3-page booklets that you would read and then take a test for it.
Yeah.
And you know, that helped. That always helps. Ugh. All right. Last story. I get so heated with that shit. I got another rant coming up later.
Trust me, I could go on and on and on and on about how to fix the education system.
Oh, it's so easy. Why don't you people fucking do it?
Well, the first thing you have to do is get rid of the federal
oversight
department. Yeah, get rid of it.
It's not
Put it
helping
back in the
anybody.
state and the local communities.
Correct.
Because what's happened is all these schools, to get that government money, they're having to implement certain things and do certain things, and the parents in that area don't want it. I
mentioned that a school department in my area that I worked for purposely changed the kids' schooling, moved kids, not even one kid, moved kids that were smart into a smart school, and moved the kids that were problems or dumb into a dumb school, so that would fall under federal litigation, and they would get subsidized money for it. Meantime, all the teachers that are working their ass off to teach these kids were all got fired and had to reapply for their jobs.
Yeah.
I lived through that, and I can't tell you how many teachers were like, fuck this. There's a private school 2 blocks away I'm going to apply for, and I got the job.
Well, I was told point blank by the principal when I told him I wanted my son held back and they needed to put him back.
Yeah.
They needed to, whatever schedule you got him in ain't working. We got to put him back in and he's got to repeat this grade. Well, we can't really do that because we get funding based on promotion. And I'm like, I don't care.
Fuck you.
I don't care.
Exactly. So before we hit the music throwback, we were talking about Sam Bankman Fried. He was the founder of FTX. He finally got sentenced.
Yeah. And
he was found guilty on 7 criminal counts. He's going to be doing 115 years in prison.
Well, faces a maximum of 115.
Yeah, it's going to be. It doesn't matter
see where that falls out.
It would be like 70 years will suck. Like it's he's not going to see the light of day. I think it's a little extreme for what I think it's extreme, but I understand that they're making a point, and so they should.
Well, but the problem it's not that it's not that it is extreme. It's if you take the 7 different felony counts and the maximum sentencing for each one of those charges adds up to 115. Yeah. Now he won't get all that. He'll more than likely get the minimum for each count. So he's probably going to end up looking at more like 15 years time served with, good behavior. He'll be out in 10.
Yeah. But still it's a good indication of how badly cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, NFTs suck so bad, and they're just a complete scam. A scam. All right, so let's get into this week's music. And I'm going to run upstairs and go to the bathroom and fill my drink. So there might be a pause after the song.
Oh, no, I'll take over.
Oh, shit. Great. So this week we're doing Bad Wolves. Now, these guys look like they're from Street Outlaws. They do. They look like they own a 67 Charger that does, a 9-second quarter mile. But this band was formed in 2017. This is essentially what we have for rock and roll today. This, in my opinion, this is like the best we have, like one of the best we have in this modern era compared to bands that we had growing up. So This is Bad Wolves. It's Learn to Walk Again. And we'll catch you on the other side for some stick style and other fun. As soon as I get over there.
They say I'm radical, I'm like a cannonball. I drop a bomb into a song, yeah, it's infallible. I'm like an animal, where
All right, so that was a good song. Again, it's not what we're used to in a lot of like traditional rock and roll sense that we're used to, but it's not that bad. I think the melody, yeah, there's a solo. Thank you. There's a fucking guitar solo that's halfway decent, so that's helpful. All right, so starting off the second half of the show, I am drinking today the last Modelo Blonde I have in the house, the Especial, the last one. What do you got? What do you have? Oh my God, that's a mason jar. Don't down the whole thing. Ah, shit. Son of a bitch. Literally. Nope.